supposed to be about unity, kumbaya, a pep rally of sorts all around tax reform. But with Trump fighting with a member of his own party, it ended up being something short of that, I guess. But it is surely making tax reform a whole lot more interesting than it ever is. The panel tonight, Doug Heye, CNN political commentator, former communications director for the Republican National Committee. Caitlin Huey-Burns is national political reporter for Real Clear Politics. Basil Smikle is the executive director of New York State Democratic Party. And Nan Hayworth is a former Republican member of Congress and a member of the board of directors for the Independent Women's Forum. All right, everyone. Today was quite hilarious. Trump and Corker have had a bad relationship for a little while. That is no surprise. But it surely seemed like it took a turn, went to a new level, choose whatever descriptor you want. If so, what actually happened, do you think, today?
Within the meeting or before the meeting?
Before the meeting, just between Trump and Corker.
I mean, I think Corker feels a sense of that he's unshackled. He can say whatever he wants without real consequences because he's not running for re-election. And what he is saying publicly is what members of Congress and certainly staff, and I can tell you I had lunch with a high-ranking administration official yesterday, even administration officials are saying privately, this is how they feel about the president. This is why tax reform is teetering on the edge of the brink, and also Obamacare repeal has not happened.
That definitely hasn't happened. But on tax reform, what does this fight do to tax reform? If you talk to Mitch McConnell, it does nothing. Full steam ahead, friends.
Right, and in fact, you're hearing from some Republican lawmakers, you know, I wish he didn't really pick that fight today, right? We're trying to all get on the same page here. We're trying to sing kumbaya. We're trying to present a united front and make the American people think that, hey, we actually know what we're doing here. Instead, I think, you know, talking to some former Corker aides say that tax reform was on his mind this morning when he made the decision to go on these morning shows. This was very deliberate by Corker, and he was trying to put the focus on tax reform. However, I don't think that you're going to hear any other Republicans come out and say what Corker has been saying, because most of them are up for re-election next year, and they don't want to rock the boat on this issue of tax reform because they will be the ones held responsible for it next year, and Donald Trump knows that.
And so no matter how this all played out on TV and Twitter today, get the two men in the same room, it didn't even come up. Apparently, that's the reporting coming out of the lunch. Donald Trump stuck to just talking about tax reform. What? Is that the most surprising thing of the day, Nan?
No, you know what, Kate, it is a matter for all of them of eyes on the prize, and we do need
political survival
reform.
Can trump so many things.
But, indeed, well, but that's true, and bravo, you know, that's actually where we want them to go, is, you know, concentrate on the policy. All of them have a common goal, and they can get there, but they do have to keep and all concerned. You know, ideally, everybody has those discussions, but keep them within the family and present a unified front whenever possible.
Yeah, I had a Republican on today, and then he hung his head when I asked my first question, and he said, there's nothing like letting a food fight between Republican versus Republican play out before the country and the world. But one thing that, if you're talking about tax reform and the shared goal, the one thing that is wildly, I want to make sure, not lost in this, Basil, is it's not like Bob Corker is saying, I'm just going to be anti-Trump on everything. Bob Corker wants tax reform. Bob Corker could very well vote for whatever finally comes out.
That's true. First of all, I'm going to start following him on Twitter because it is
the fact
fascinating.
That you haven't is malpractice.
I really need to start doing that, and paying attention to it too. But that said, you know, it's interesting going off of what both of you said. It's interesting to me. I would like to see if more Republicans follow Corker, if not necessarily in the but even if it's not in terms of the tone and tenor of what he says about Donald Trump, but do they start acting more, in my opinion, like true conservatives, or are they going to start just blindly following Trump? And I say that because from what we understand about the tax bill, it doesn't do anything to reduce the debt or the deficit. It doesn't do anything to help the middle class. In fact, it gives more money to the wealthy. That's not how Donald Trump got elected, number one. But number two, if this is the only policy that Republicans can take back to their constituents next year, how do they defend it?
They defend it by saying we got a big win on the board, right? Well, I mean, when it comes down to it, there was a conference call over the weekend between House Republicans and the president, and the message was pretty clear. Do this, or there will be a bloodbath in 2018. Do you think that is overstating it? Because we heard the same with the discussions over health care.
No, it's not overstating it, and it's not just tax reform. It's tax reform or Obamacare repeal. If they could get one of those things done, then the sword of Damocles that has been swaying back and forth over House and Senate Republicans would go away. But they need one significant bill that they can point their finger to, because if you go outside of New York and you go outside of Washington, Republican voters, like the rest of the voters in the country, are angry. They want to see some results from Washington.
And they were able to pass a budget. So that's a positive sign. They were able to get 51 votes in the budget.
But it was almost a very anti-Republican budget, though, when they moved forward.
And that's like winning the exhibition game before you go to the playoffs.
Sure, exactly.
It was a good and proper thing.
I don't even watch that game. If it doesn't come for the record, then it doesn't even matter. As I was watching this morning, Bob Corker was saying things about Donald Trump I don't even think the top Democrat in the Senate has said about Donald Trump. I mean, that is why it was so wild today.
Right, exactly. And Bob Corker was one of the ones that was out there defending Donald Trump during the campaign when few of his colleagues were. He really gave him some credibility here when he was campaigning for him. And so that
that
also unleashed a lot of criticisms.
They both win and lose?
Republicans, period, lose. Every side of the party loses on this. The less we're talking about issues, the more we're talking about personalities over policies, Republicans lose, and we'll lose in November if we don't get our act straight.
The thing that I think about, too, is why didn't more of them say that early on last year? Everything that's being determined, everything that we're talking about now was true, evident.
If you ask Bob
Corker, some of us did. What do you want to
know? You're right.
Since Bob Corker is such a good friend of mine, I'm clearly making that up. What Bob Corker says is he left him running room. He left him room to change. It was better than Hillary, and he now would never vote for him again. I'm just saying, because we now have to talk about Hillary. If the 2016 election is over and Republicans keep saying Democrats are the ones who need to get over it, why then are Republicans now launching a new investigation into Hillary Clinton? See where I'm going? The panel returns.